You know that moment. You finally fall asleep after a long day, the house is quiet, and your body melts into the mattress. And then at 2 or 3 in the morning, your eyes snap open because you need to pee. The urge is not always urgent, just insistent enough to drag you out from deep sleep and start a cycle of tossing, staring at the ceiling, and replaying the day. Most people shrug and say it is just age or a weak bladder. But what if the problem is often not the bladder itself, and more the volume of noise between your brain and bladder that decides what counts as an emergency at night? What if roughly 3 grams of a compound your body already makes could lower that volume enough to let you sleep 6 to 8 hours straight without getting up to pee? I am not offering a prescription-level sedative or a risky drug. I am talking about a simple, natural amino acid with placebo-controlled studies showing sleep continuity benefits and lower nocturnal awakenings. Today, I will explain what it is, how it acts on the nervous system and reflexes, and how to try a practical protocol this week safely. Think of your nightly signaling like a radio. If the volume is set too high, the smallest static turns into a blaring alarm. The right tweak can turn that static down so you stop waking for signals that do not need immediate action. So what exactly is going on when you wake multiple times to urinate? Let us walk through the science and the practical steps you can test starting tonight. The story below follows a patient case, the research, a step-by-step protocol, supporting tips and sensible precautions so you can experiment without surprises. The scene opens with Maria, a 58-year-old graphic designer who lives above a small bakery. The clock glows 2:12. She feels a cool draft from the cracked window, and the tile floor is cold under her feet as she pads down the hall. The house smells faintly of cinnamon from the bakery below. She mumbles to Tom, who sleeps beside her, and rubs her face with the heel of her hand. Tom blinks, voice hushed, and asks, "Are you okay?" Maria answers, "I need to pee, again." Tom says softly, "Maybe try some water earlier tomorrow." Maria sighs and says, "It is not just the water, Tom. It is like the bladder sends a megaphone to my brain at night." This exchange is small, but it shows the fatigue and frustration. Sensory details matter here. The mattress springs sigh as she sits, the bathroom light hums, and the porcelain is cool against her palm. Scenes like this repeat for many people and create daytime fog, low mood, and poorer focus. Beyond the anecdote, there is biology. The bladder and brain communicate via sensory nerves and spinal circuits that are modulated by neurotransmitters. At night, the balance between signals that warrant waking and signals that can be ignored shifts. Age, inflammation, fluid timing, and neural sensitivity all play a part. Imagine the pathway like a hallway with motion sensors. If one sensor becomes too twitchy, every small movement trips the lights and wakes you. The amino acid we are discussing acts like a softening agent on those sensors, lowering the propensity to trigger a full wake response. Consequences of repeated awakenings are real. Sleep fragmentation reduces slow-wave sleep and REM, impairing memory consolidation and metabolic regulation. Clinically, this translates into daytime sleepiness, reduced reaction times, higher blood pressure, and poorer exercise recovery. For Maria, this meant missed deadlines and an afternoon slump that coffee could not fix. For Priya, a 32-year-old triathlete who trains at night, it meant worse muscle repair and slower times. In study after study, continuity matters as much as total sleep time. Now the turning point, the solution. Researchers in Japan and at several university centers have tested oral glycine at doses between 2 and 4 grams taken before bedtime. One placebo-controlled trial led by researchers at a Japanese university found that 3 grams of glycine improved subjective sleep quality and reduced nocturnal awakenings compared to placebo. Another small clinical study at a medical center compared glycine to placebo and reported better sleep efficiency and feeling more refreshed the next morning. The effect is not magic, but measurable. To make this actionable, I will give you a protocol grounded in those trials and practical considerations from clinicians like Dr. Laura Kim, a neurologist, and Mark Patel, a urologist. But first, a brief explanation of mechanism. Glycine is an amino acid that acts as an inhibitory neurotransmitter in the spinal cord and brainstem. It can reduce hyperexcitability of reflex arcs that tell the bladder to contract. In simpler terms, it lowers the gain on the alarm system between bladder and brain, so the normal nightly filling no longer triggers a full wake-up. Think of it like adjusting the sensitivity on a motion detector so it ignores the cat but still senses a person. Animal and human studies suggest timing matters because glycine crosses into relevant circuits within an hour, and the typical efficacious dose in trials was 3 grams. Now the protocol, step by step. Take 3 grams of glycine in powder or capsule form roughly 60 minutes before your intended bedtime. Mix powder in a small glass of cool water for easier swallowing and a sensory cue that this is sleep preparation. Do not drink large volumes after this point. Reduce fluid intake in the 2 hours before bed and empty your bladder once when you head to sleep. If you take capsules, spread them with a small snack if needed to avoid mild stomach discomfort. For better results, combine this with a magnesium supplement earlier in the evening, around 2 hours before bed in split doses, and avoid caffeine after mid-afternoon. For athletes like Priya, shift heavy evening training at least 2 hours earlier when possible. Some practical cautions. If you take medications that affect kidney function or you have severe renal impairment, speak to your physician. If you are taking antipsychotics or other drugs that alter neurotransmitters, consult a clinician before trying new supplements. Also, glycine can interact with certain treatments and is not a substitute for medical evaluation when nocturia is due to prostate issues, urinary tract infection, or uncontrolled diabetes. Now, a short community-focused pause. If you have been waking multiple times and feel exhausted, the frustration is valid and you are not alone. If you have already tried things, write a short comment starting with "tried" and say what you tried and for how long. Did cutting evening fluids help for a few nights? Did magnesium do anything? Your one line can help someone else decide what to try next. Sharing also helps us spot patterns like age ranges, medications, or training schedules that change outcomes. I read many comments myself, and colleagues like Nurse Jenna and Dr. Saito sometimes respond with clarifying questions. Your feedback shapes future videos and practical tweaks. Okay, now back to the details. Evidence summary. The key study in Japan enrolled healthy adults complaining of poor sleep and used 3 grams of glycine nightly versus placebo for 2 weeks. Participants recorded improved subjective sleep scores and less daytime sleepiness with minimal adverse effects. Another trial at a medical school recruited older adults with nocturia and reported fewer awakenings and improved sleep efficiency with glycine compared to placebo. Both studies were small and more research is welcome, but the consistency and low risk profile make it a reasonable, low-cost experiment. Mechanistic work in labs shows glycine modulates spinal inhibitory receptors and reduces exaggerated reflexive contractions. In the clinic, clinicians like Dr. Laura Kim and urologist Mark Patel have observed individual patients gain nights with fewer awakenings when combining glycine with hydration timing and sleep hygiene. Practical tips to optimize results include: split magnesium earlier in the evening to avoid stomach upset, avoid alcohol near bedtime, which can fragment sleep and counteract gains, set a consistent bedtime to reinforce circadian rhythm, and track results in a simple sleep log, noting number of awakenings and sleep quality for at least 7 days. Name checks for context include Maria, who tried 3 grams for 10 nights and reported 4 nights with no wakings and 3 nights with a single waking, Tom, who supported small hydration changes, Carlos, the neighbor who asked about interactions with creatine, Priya, the athlete who moved her training window, Nurse Jenna, who helped check medical history for safety, and Dr. Saito, who led the glycine trial. A brief exchange between Maria and Dr. Laura in clinic shows the human side. Maria says, "I am nervous about taking anything new." Dr. Laura replies, "I understand, and that is sensible." Maria asks, "Will it make me drowsy in the morning?" Dr. Laura answers, "Most people report feeling more refreshed, not groggy, and the safety profile is clean, but we will check your medications and kidney tests first." The sensory detail here. The clinic room smells faintly of hand sanitizer. The sun warms the blinds, and the paper on the exam table crinkles under the coat. For those who decide to try this, try 3 grams about an hour before bed for 1 to 2 weeks while keeping a log and reducing liquids in the late evening. If you see improvement, continue for a month and then reassess. If you see no change after 2 weeks, consider discussing alternative evaluations like a urology referral or sleep study. Final quick recap. You do not need to accept fragmented nights as inevitable. By addressing the neural sensitivity between brain and bladder with a simple 3-gram glycine strategy timed about 60 minutes before sleep, combined with hydration timing and magnesium, you can often reduce awakenings and improve sleep continuity. If you have kidney disease, are on interacting medications, or are concerned, talk to your doctor first. Try this routine for 1 to 2 weeks and come back and tell us in the comments what changed. Your experience might help someone else. If this format of clear, practical protocols grounded in studies is useful, subscribe to follow more tested approaches to sleep and recovery. Sleep well and see you next time.